Welcome to Granny Hillabillie Unicorn's pad. Today's topic is
jackholes and John Deeres. When dealing with a pissed-off hillbilly, you should know that we will risk personal injury to teach you a lesson or put you in your place. So, when the husband got a little too comfortable with his disrespect towards me on one smoking hot August afternoon, old Hillabillie, here, decided he needed a new project to occupy his time while reminding him I can do anything I want, anytime I want. He ain't the boss of nobody, certainly not me. He had warned me multiple times not to touch his motherfucking John Deere tractor. In his eloquent, demeaning way, he proclaimed I did not know how to operate such a complex machine, until he had the opportunity to give me proper instructions and lessons. I was to stay away from the big green and yellow driving apparatus that he himself did not know how to operate properly nor took any pride in keeping maintained or cleaned. City folk never cease to entertain me with their stupidity and arrogance. I'm a hillbilly, you dumb fuck. I have been on a tractor since before I could walk. Truth be known, I would have stayed away from his precious little John Deere, that happened to be smaller than my first toy tractor that was whittled out of the finest tree by my granddaddy. But, herein lies the problem. The man is beyond lazy, has no pride in his surroundings or his belongings, and his hobbies are the only thing important to him and occupy every moment of his time. So, you can see the dilemma for me was, have an overgrown yard that surrounded our shitty little trailer screaming to the world, worthlessness lives here, while I waited for him to have an on-hobby moment to mow? I think not. Hillabillie don't roll like that, so I waited for the asshole to leave on one of his time-consuming and expensive hunts. Hooks or Horton? It's so difficult to keep up with which one he's doing at what time. But, the door had no sooner hit his ass when my bony butt hit that yellow seat and fired that engine. 30 minutes later, I was putting crisscrosses in the yard because, yeah, you got that right, I know what the fuck I'm doing. When in my head I started playing the broken record of his endless non-stop bullshit of bloating, bragging, and belittling. I don't know what came over me, Fox, maybe a menopause hot flash, or perhaps, one of my personalities that doesn't take kindly to being treated shitty decided to jump off at that moment. Who's to say? After finishing my final round of crisscross perfection, I paused for a moment to reflect. I could see his face clearly in the creak, rippling wrinkles of a blowbag, know-it-all with lips puckered and brow furrowed screaming you don't know what you're doing, dumb fucking cunt. And, people, do you know what happened next? I took leave of my buddy for a moment as my foot jammed that gas pedal to the metal and drove his motherfucking John Deere right off the edge of the bank and into Crazy Creek. He'd forced me to move to this godforsaken banjo land, where every other day some bizarre happenings out of a Stephen King novel decimate some part of my body or world. I had had enough. The next thing I recall, I was coming up for air, as was the lawnmower, both of us adrift mid-current which would wash us right out to the ocean. I could have left it like that, let that little John Deere float right on out to sea and never thought twice about it. I could have told him it got stolen, he would have never known the difference. But, you guessed it, I don't roll that way neither. So, I lifeguard rescued Big Green and muscled it to the bank. I ran to the neighbors screaming for help. You have to realize, I realized that I had to sell the fact that this was an accident or tell him I'd done it purposely and never ever for eternity hear the end of that shit. In the moment, it was a big no thanks from me on the eternity of torture, so, I opted for accident, and with that thought I took off running down the street in one flip-flop, while screaming for help. 2 of the neighbor boys and I fished it out of the water. The hubby got home to find me and his lawnmower soaking wet and non-functional. I would remain non-functional much longer than the John Deere, I assure you, that. I've spent the last 2 weeks laughing my ass off as I watched the dumbass trying to fix his John Deere. Guess what he has not been doing the last 2 weeks? Yep, right again. No hobbies for big boy. Every moment has been filled with tinkering on his little lawnmower. Meanwhile, I got all the neighbors checking on me and bringing me yummy desserts to help me feel better from my traumatic accident. The talk on the creek is how brave and strong I am and how unworthy he is. Ha, that's right. Hillbilly equals 1 husband equals 0.